Welcome to Business Redefined, your weekly most comprehensive look at the world of business and economics. We are focusing on the digitization of the land registry. This was a landmark which took place, and we are privileged to have the Cabinet Secretary in charge of lands, Madam Farida Karone. Welcome on set.
Thank you.
Yesterday was a very historic milestone for this country, and this is a conversation we've been having from as far back as 2018. And maybe just curious to understand, what are some of the key highlights you can give us? What are some of the lessons you take from as far back as 2018?
The biggest win for landowners especially is the fact that we have developed a system which we believe is very secure, we believe is very robust, and we believe it will make it very easy to transact in land. As you know, lands as a sector has had very many challenges over the years, almost 60 years, the biggest issue being fraud. What we have done with the records in Nairobi is that we have scanned, coded, and put all these records on a digital platform. It means that you will not be able, if you're a fraudster, you cannot alter that record. Because one of our biggest issues in Ministry of Lands is loss of records or theft of records. So that is one issue we think we have managed to resolve permanently, because now these records are on a secure platform. The other benefit is, of course, the fact that you will not have duplication in land ownership records, because this system will not allow you to put in the system duplicate records. So if there are two titles, for example, covering the same parcel of land, the system will not allow you to upload them. So in that sense, it forces you to determine who is the legitimate owner of this parcel of land. The other thing we've managed to do with this platform is to co-opt into the National Land Information Management System geospatial data. Geospatial data basically means it's like coordinates when you're flying. The coordinates will take you to the place you're flying to. So these coordinates will take you to the parcel of land. So we know with certainty where is this parcel of land. And we are also able to marry this data with satellite imagery. So even as a landowner, as a professional in the sector, as an investor, you're able to go into the platform and tell what is on this parcel of land. If you're buying land, where is it? What are the nearest facilities? Is it near a hospital? Is it near a road? These kinds of features we've built into the system. And also as government, we are able to tell with certainty which is public land, which is private land, and which is community land. That is important, because over the years, one of the biggest issues is theft of public assets, public land. So that will no longer be possible, because these assets are locked, and even an officer of government will not be able to deal in it unless they are authorized to do so.
CS, one of the challenges we've had with the digitization of registries in this country, not just land but others, is that then the updates in the event of transactions are not real time, such that if I offloaded my stake or I sold my land today, will I go then to the RDIS as a platform and actually find it has already been reflected that this has been transferred to so and so?
During the process of digitization, what we did, we provided for business continuity. So even as we're coding and digitizing records, if as a customer you came and wanted to do a transaction, we did your transaction manually, and then we rescanned your data so that your record in the system is up to date. And beginning Monday, the 26th of April 2021, that is the last day we took paper records. It means that if you want to transact in your parcel right now, you would have to upload your records onto the platform so that we can transact on it digitally. So there's no chance that your record will not be up to date. And if by chance it is, because these are human transactions, it is possible to make mistakes, we have a fully fledged customer care support system, which then allows you as the customer to say, I think you have the wrong data on my platform. This is my paperwork. You upload and we quickly update the record. So there's no chance that you will transact in data that is not up to date, because of the protocols that we have built into the system and how we have allowed our registrars to update any record. Because as soon as you update, we are demanding that you bring it back so that we update the record. And this is a process we've done over the last 3 years.
How many titles, as we speak, have been migrated to the digital platform, and how many are you targeting by the close of this?
So Nairobi has about 250,000 transactable parcels. By transactable, I mean those titles that are both in the Survey of Kenya, in the cadastre, the Land Administration, Land Registration, and all the other departments of the ministry. Totally, there are 250,000. Now, Nairobi has two registries. There's a Nairobi registry called the Nairobi Registry itself, and then there's a central registry in Nairobi. This central registry has records that belong to Nairobi, as well as other parts of the country. So what we migrated yesterday is the Nairobi registry. It is composed of 141 blocks, the total may be totaling about 90,000 parcels of land. So those 90,000 parcels is what is now transactable. The balance for the central registry will come on board in May. And the reason we decided to phase it out is for two reasons. One, we wanted to upscale slowly so that we take on feedback and see how the system is working. Secondly, we have just started the process of title conversion. As we speak, we are still running different regimes of land registration. Yet in 2012, the law collapsed all these pieces of legislation into the Land Registration Act. But we hadn't been able to migrate because we didn't have a cadastre. The cadastre we unveiled yesterday is the first ever in the country. Yet the law says to migrate, you need a cadastre. So we are migrating as we digitalize. So the central registry is what we are going to convert and migrate in May, so that by the end of May or early June, all the parcels of land in Nairobi will be transacted under the Land Registration Act. So for the moment, we are transacting in the Nairobi registry, which has in total 141 blocks, about 90,000 parcels.
We have had many incidences in this country about the regularization, I should say, of land titles, whereby I'm really convinced I was given the documents by the government. Why is this happening to me? Why is my property being cleared? How does the digitization resolve this issue?
So Julius, you see, the problems we have in the sector are problems we have built up over 60 years. Fraud is a big issue in our sector. And one of the things that we took us so long to clean out is really understanding the data, getting sure that you appreciate and know the ownership properly, that a landowner has all the parcels or all the records about his parcel of land collating and relating to each other. And as I said, there are about 5 records that you need to determine ownership. The first is a survey plan, because that's really land. Without a survey plan, if you have a title and you have no survey plan, it means really you have no land. So your survey plan has to tally with your registry documents, has to tally with your land administration document, with your physical planning document, because the process of registration is a linear process. You start with planning. You plan for the parcel. Once you plan, you survey. Once you survey, you create correspondences around it. That's the Department of Land Administration. Then after that, that is when you register that parcel. So if all these documents don't tally, then it will be very difficult to prove that the parcel belongs to you. So one of the things we are doing over the last 3 years is to marry these documents and make sure that each landowner has all the necessary documentation. And as you will see, as we begin to roll out the platform, there will be people complaining. And they will be complaining because their parcels are not in the system. Why will they not be in the system? Because one of the codes we built into the system is that for our system to recognize your parcel, you must have all the necessary documents that guarantee you rights to that land. Because a right is not just the title is the end product, but full rights will be guaranteed to you by the process you follow to acquire that title. So if you don't have all these titles, your parcel will not be there. And that is why we have a customer support center to enable us to engage with our customers and build their records. Because we are saying some of your parcels will not be there. Maybe they will come on board over time as we engage with you and you bring us your records and we build up your records. The reason why we have been very meticulous and very strict with the full documentation is our history. Because people have colluded with brokers, with cartels, with even staff of government, and to some extent manipulated some of our records. So some of the records we have set aside are those that we are not able to tell with certainty the ownership of that parcel. And it will take a separate process for us to establish true ownership. So while it is true that the government is a guarantor of title, in the past we have fallen short. And we've really not done what we should have been doing as government. And this is the process we are seeking to correct with this National Land Information Management System. We are saying mistakes may have happened in the past. Some of the mistakes may be difficult to correct. And those are the ones you are now calling regularization. Because, for instance, I got my title in 1970. I didn't follow due process. I have lived there almost 50 years. Is the government going to take away that title? The answer is probably no. But still you haven't followed due process. So what will we do? We will try to regularize so that you properly own that parcel of land. In some cases, outright fraud has been committed. Those ones we will not take onto the platform, and it will follow us a different legal process of dealing with it. So there are many issues that we have to deal with separately. What we are saying is this: we have created the solution. We have built this mess over 50, 60 years. It's not going to take us 1 year, 2, 3 years to correct it. It will probably take us another 30 years. But we will do it systematically, working with the landowners. And as government, we are saying we are owning up. We are available for engagement with the landowners. Mistakes have happened, but we want to run away from that past. What we did in the past, some we will forgive, others we will let the due process of the law take its course. But we are saying going forward, we will transact in land properly, transparently, and efficiently going forward.
See, yes, one of the challenges that I foresee in this process of digitization is that Nairobi, on a relative basis, has a fairly structured registry, documents are there, etc. There are counties, and if you speak to governors, you'll realize this, that really fall short as far as this is concerned. When it comes to digitization of those far-flung counties which have these data gaps to start with, how do you go about that?
The reason why we started with Nairobi, Julius, is because, as you've correctly said, it's a test case. Because any complexity you're likely to experience in the land sector, you will experience in Nairobi. So what we've done with with the process in Nairobi is to build a protocol to understand what is really the state of our data. How are the gaps? What are the gaps? How can we fill these gaps? And then we've created a protocol so that when we roll out to the counties, we work with the protocol upfront. Because in Nairobi, we're shooting in the dark. We really didn't know what we're up against. But now we know because we have interrogated. We digitized more than 30 million single sheets of paper, just coding each page, making sure that every document is in the file. So when we go to the counties, we think actually the problem will be simpler because now we understand what to look for, how to deal with it, what protocols to put in place if there are gaps in data, and how to make sure that in future you can migrate all these parcels of land onto the cadastre. So we actually think the counties will be much simpler because remember we've been experimenting with this thing for 3 years. So we understand fully the scope of the problem and we know the gaps. We know what are the likely issues. We know how we can deal with them. So to me, and that's why the president said yesterday that we want to cover the whole country by the end of next year. That's a short, maybe 1.5 years. And yet it has taken us 3 years to do Nairobi. But you have to understand that in Nairobi we are doing many things concurrently. First, we were building the platform itself. That took us more than 1.5 years. And then we were doing the cadastre. The cadastre is basically generating geospatial data because we wanted each title to be referenced on ground. We don't want you to own a title that doesn't have land on the ground. So that took quite a bit of time. Now we know how to do it. We have created the base to do these things, and it will be much, much quicker to scale it up. The other thing that at least the president has committed is to give us additional resources so that we can handle many counties concurrently. So that should be very easy to scale up. As I said, we promised 20 counties by December. We'll do it because we intend to run concurrent teams. And what we've done is that we've done a good mix. The counties with many titles, the counties with fewer titles, the counties that are in the middle. So we are doing a good mix of this, and we should be able to scale up another 20 counties by December, and then we take on the balance of 27 in January next year.
I'm very certain that you have some sense of profiling that these are the ones we are targeting next. Are you able to give us an indication?
Our country generally has 2 scoped areas. The lands that have the part of the country that has community land, which is really 70% of our land mass, northern Kenya, the coastal region. That makes up 70% almost of the land mass in Kenya. Then the central region around Nairobi and the former Central White Islands. That's where the density of the population is. So to that extent, now we are marrying the counties in this central scope and the countries in the northern part. So if we take, for instance, 5 counties in the central region, or the part of the country that has a density of titles, then we take a few in the upper part which have fewer. So we marry and we do it almost concurrently, and that is why we are confident that we should be able to pull it off, because apart from the former White Islands, which really has the bulk of the titles, most of the northern part of Kenya is not documented because it's community land. And as you know, most of our community lands are not registered. We started the process of implementation in 2019. We've only registered 5 community lands. You can imagine, out of a land mass of 70% of the country. So to that extent, we are going to work in that manner, taking the denser counties with the lighter counties. That way you scale up more quickly.
Back to our conversation on the digitization of land registries, I have a concern, and that is the fact that your ministry is conducting 2 significant exercises concurrently. There is the conversion of land titles, now there's the digitization on this side. Sometimes I feel like you are biting more than you can manage.
Julius, I don't think so. You see, the thing is, when you digitize, you're committing to do things properly, you're committing to be more transparent, more accountable, and more efficient. Now, it is not possible to be that transparent, efficient, accountable if you're using 5 different pieces of legislation to document rights in land. So really the conversion process that we are undertaking, simply put, is migrating to the Land Registration Act, because the law changed in 2012. The Land Registration Act is the only act that allows you to document and register rights to land. We are operating pieces of legislation that have been repealed, and the law gave a 5-year transition period, which expired in 2017. So technically, we are operating irregularly because we are using laws that should have been closed, or registers that should have been closed in 2017. So to answer your question, we are not biting more than we can chew, because all we are saying is we are digital and we are applying the correct legal framework. Because this platform, we have built it to force compliance with the law. Because one of the challenges we've had in the past is officers of government operating outside the law using frameworks that the government has already repealed. So this migration to the Land Registration Act, the two processes are actually, they are not mutually exclusive. They are supportive of each other. Yes, exactly. They reinforce each other. So you digitalize and then you apply the correct law. That's all we are doing, and I don't think it's too much to bite. And somebody had to do it anyway. I mean, for how long were we going to be operating in violation of the law? The law should have been, those 5 registers should have been closed in the year 2017. We are now in 2021. We are still operating under repealed pieces of legislation. The correct thing to do is to apply the correct legal framework, and that is what we are doing.
Yeah. And now that you're talking about the conversion of titles, how far are we with this, and what's your sense in terms of the completion of it?
We started the process of gazetting the conversion lists in December last year. We've refined our data sets, we've cleaned them up. We actually expect to put out a new gazette notice this coming Friday to correct some of the mistakes we made in the previous gazette notices, because we've had the chance to look at our data sets afresh. As I told you, some of our data has a lot of gaps. So we've had the opportunity to relook at the data and refine it and clean it up. So on Friday, we shall issue a new conversion list to clean up the 141 blocks that, as I told you, went live yesterday. Then in the month of May, we will issue a different gazette notice to provide a conversion list for all the parcels of land under the central registry. And then you see the law allows you to give 90 days for anybody who has a complaint, who has a concern, to come forward and register their concern. And there are relevant forms that you fill to document that concern. Then subsequently, we'll do it over time. There's no pressure, but because what we've done in our system, it allows you to recognize both the old number and the new number. So as a customer, you will be transacting in your old number, but our system will read the new number. So that's a process we'll allow customers to comfortably migrate. There's no pressure, because we are still able to recognize your title even if you're transacting in your old number. But as you register in the platform and put on your new number, we'll be telling you, by the way, this is your new parcel number. And it will be on your account, because every customer has an account. There's a My Properties list on your account. You should be able to see, this is my new number, this is my old number. For us as the officers of government, we will be transacting in the new number, in the converted number. But as a customer, you can still come with your old number. We'll recognize both. So it's a process that we hope will take maybe more than a year, but we are not worried about it, because once everything is digital, it's easy, because you're able to compare these documents digitally. So there's really no pressure for the customer.
And CS, just for the avoidance of doubt, and I'm asking this out of public interest because I've been asked this many times, I've asked you this before, no one is losing their title through the conversion process.
No. The only thing we are doing is changing the registration regime. Every right you held in that parcel of land, your acreage, your encumbrances, your benefits in that title remain intact. You lose nothing. The only thing you will lose is the old legal regime that you operated in. We are migrating you to the correct legal framework as provided before by the law. So as a landowner, you shouldn't be afraid. You lose nothing, absolutely nothing. You lose nothing at all.
Practitioners in matters regarding land transactions will tell you that one of the challenges they face is just the fact that the systems are not interfaced, such that I have to do this, then I have to go and deal with KRA regarding my PIN, then I have to go and deal with another state agency. When we come now to the digitization of this platform, are we given the guarantee that all this has been seamlessly integrated?
Yes, Julius, what we have done with this system, correctly so I believe, is to integrate with all other government platforms. We started with integrating with the Registrar of Persons, because one of the challenges we've had in the past is not knowing the true identity of the person transacting. So we've integrated with IPRS, we've integrated with KRA, we've integrated with business registration services. Why is this important? KRA collects stamp duty, which is collected through the Ministry of Lands. So as a customer, on our platform, when you pay stamp duty, you don't need to produce any receipt or go anywhere. because we will collect that data from the KRA database. So you don't have to go from office to office in order to finish your transaction. Business registration services, a lot of companies own land. So we've integrated with business registration services because also that's where there's an opportunity for fraud. People changing companies and changing ownerships so that they can claim assets that don't belong to them. So we've integrated with that as well. We are also going to integrate with Huduma number when it comes on board. And as you know, Huduma number will integrate identity data or identity data sets. So we will be able to tell with a very high degree of certainty that the person transacting is indeed Farida and the person that she's transacting on belong to her. So it will be like day and night. It will be as clear as glass. You will not be able to transact on persons that don't belong to you.
What about integration with the judicial system?
We have provided an avenue for them to pick our data. And why have we done this? A lot of the cases in court remain unresolved because judicial officers don't have access to our data, or lawyers trying to prosecute their cases don't have access to our data. So professional bodies like the LSK, like the surveyors, like the valuers, like the planners, all those will have access to our system. And if you want to prove or to do due diligence, you will be welcome to do so because you have access in the system. You can register as a professional. And we are working with the professional organizations like the LSK, the Planners Association, the valuers, everybody. And we are telling them, bring your register of professionals. We integrate them in the system so that we know that professional X is not a quack professional, that indeed they are recognized by their professional organization. So to that extent, we think that we've done a very good job in terms of integration, so not just with government agencies, but professionals who play in the land sector. And we think that it will be so much easier for them to transact.
Still on the integration subject, CS, if you read the public finance management framework, one of the provisions is that counties will mobilize on-source revenue through land rates. And I can tell you county governments are really banking on this digitization to try and ramp up their on-source revenue through land rates. Care to comment on that?
Yes, well, one of the offshoots of this product or project is a revenue system. We are already experimenting on that system with the Nairobi County government, and I tell you their revenues have gone up. And when we had engagements with the stakeholders in February, one of the players we met was actually the Council of Governors and their members. And we're telling them this system, integrate with us, because it will allow you to see the land parcels in our platform, to see who has rent due, who has rates due, and which other tax is due and has not been paid. So we are welcoming them to take advantage of the fact that we have an inbuilt revenue platform, which they can easily integrate and collect revenue, or at least have a record of who has paid and who hasn't paid. So that integration is easy. We provided for that for the National Land Commission. Anybody, by the way, Julius, who is a player in our sector can access our data, as long as you identify yourself correctly and we give you the right credentials. You should be able to operate on our platform easily and securely.
CS, the digitization of land registries, curious to understand, how much is it costing the taxpayer?
Let's go to the beginning first. This is a process that started, or we attempted to start, in 1995. That's 26 years. Every year subsequently, we've been trying something new. Maybe from 2004, we've been a bit more aggressive in trying to actually digitize. And by 2015, we had come up with a semblance of an online, I don't want to call it digital, of an online platform, the one that we shut down on Monday. Over those many years, we've spent a lot of money. But I can tell you, I wouldn't even say a third, a small fraction of all these monies we've spent over all these years. Why? Because we used Kenyans. We didn't hire any outsider. We collected the Kenyan techies from different sectors, from different agencies of government, put them together in a place and told them, this is what we are looking for. We built the scope of the system that we're looking for, and we told them, this is the system we want. Go build it. That was in July 2019. They took about 6-7 months because by not actually less, because by November 2019 they gave us a raw version, which we tested, we interrogated, we said, no, you didn't get it right, go and tweak this one. And then in January, I think, of 2020, they brought us almost a finished product. So we cut a lot of costs because all we did was to take young Kenyans, university graduates, people off school, and we paid them a salary and hosted them for that long. So it cost us very little. Actually, what has cost us money is the casuals we've been paying to look at our data, to interrogate our data, to analyze our data sets. Because we had about 1,000, or slightly more than 1,000 casuals on the project for 3 years, working day and night. Really, people has been our biggest cost. It's not the technology. because the technology, we built it ourselves as government. It's a government platform, wholly owned by the government of Kenya. So if we want to change anything, it doesn't cost us anything. As opposed to if we had contracted a third party to do it, and every time you want to change something, you know these technology platforms, you will have to pay. There's no license fee, no nothing. So as a user, it's free of cost, because government will just keep updating it, modernizing it, servicing it.
This exercise dates back to the mid-90s. There have been attempts before. And what lessons are you drawing from those past experiences as you implement this new one?
The biggest lesson we've learned is that I think we had made a mistake to contract third parties to do strategic government work. Because what has happened over those many attempts is that records have been mixed up, others have been lost, because every attempt used a different player. So with every subsequent player, in between, maybe we lose a few records, maybe we confuse up the records. You find that this paper has been filed in the wrong file, those kinds of things. And then also the synergy. We didn't have that synergy because everybody does their bit, they leave it halfway, they go, somebody else will come and start. In this process, working with different people with different levels of expertise, because we had security players, we had ICT players, cybersecurity players, everybody, that you need to build a system. So what we've done differently, we have actually built security into the system. In the past, we built a system, and then we said, okay, now we have a system. How do we secure it? That's a wrong approach. You build everything or the security protocols into this system so that upfront you have a secure platform. So one of the biggest lessons, Kenyans can do anything as good as anyone in Silicon Valley can do. Because I tell you, we have built a world-class platform, built by young Kenyans, just off school. They've done a fantastic job. Secondly, we waste too much money trying to look for solutions that actually don't fit our problem. Because our problems as a country are unique. The problems in our sector, are unique. They cannot be the same in the UK or in New Zealand or Rwanda or Malaysia. They can't be the same. So we built a solution to address our unique concerns. And that is one thing I think we should carry forward as a country. We should always try to look inside before looking outside for solutions.
Let's talk briefly about what you've just preempted there, the security of the system. Systems, as we all know globally, have challenges here and there. There's downtime. What happens in that scenario? We're engaging in transactions. In the past, we've been told the land registry has been closed. I mean, COVID was, for example, an unknown that we didn't anticipate. What happens in the event of downtime?
This system, Julius, is a highly available system. Why do I say so? We have a fully operational redundancy. If, for example, the system here was to go down, the redundancy system will take up almost immediately. And as a customer, you will not even notice that there was a problem because they're running parallel, concurrently, the system and the redundancy system. And then we have also a remote backup. So in terms of availability, don't worry. The capacity we built here in terms of computing power and power backup is enough to run a small city, because we just wanted to make sure that our services are not down. Because as you can imagine, lands is like almost a central bank. You don't want to be told now you cannot transact. Maybe you have somebody in the court and you want to take out a security, or you want to take a loan in the bank. You don't want anybody to tell you the system is off for the next 5 days. So we built a highly available system. The security protocols are A1. We are not saying that we have built a perfect system, but we are saying we have built a good system. In terms of security, we have several layers. They are inbuilt firewalls. That's one. Secondly, you cannot access the system without an OTP, one-time password. It will be linked to your phone. It will be linked to your own identity. We have the data is encrypted, both when it's resident and on transit. So even if you compromised the system, you cannot see anything. You cannot read because the data is encrypted. In terms of mapping, we've done very rigorous identity mapping, and that's why we are integrating with the IPRS and BRS, because we want to be sure with at least 99% level of accuracy that if you say it's Julius logging in, we can confirm it is you, because we are interrogating other databases of government to confirm that indeed it is you that is logging on. So the system, I want to assure the public, it's very secure, it's very fast, it's very efficient. What is a challenge for us at the moment are the gaps in data, as I've explained. There are very many gaps in data, because over the years we've lost records. Some of them have been stolen, some of them have been manipulated. So we will have to work with the landowners themselves to restore these records. And that is a process that will take time. But the system itself, 99.9% available all the time.
Earlier this year, I think it was on January 20th, we saw a circular from your office regarding private valuers. and the whole idea is to try and expedite the efficiency within the valuation of properties. How is that panning out when you look down one quarter down the line?
That was an amendment of the Stamp Duty Act, working with the National Treasury. As you know, that is a money act. So the idea of that amendment was to support the Office of the Chief Government Valuer, to give it capacity. We believe the Chief Government Valuer is a bit understaffed in terms of capacity, and we wanted to roll out transactions quickly. So instead of trying to burden government with additional salaries in terms of recruiting more valuers, we argued, why not work with the private sector? We have good valuers out there. They do the same thing as the chief government valuer. So all we did, and we have done at the moment, is to register. So we've registered about 300 private valuers into our system, now the new system. And I believe they will start transacting, because one of the things the system will ask you, do you want to use a government valuer or a private valuer? It gives you the option. So if you choose a private valuer, they're already in our database. We've registered all of them. Whoever you choose, we will allow you to transact with them. So in terms of deployment, we registered, we've created their credentials in the system, we are now ready for transaction. And we built it for this system, which, as you know, went live only yesterday.
This country has had a history where the government is forced to compensate for an overvaluation. And the issue is who double checks what the private valuer does? Does it again go to the office of the chief valuer again for double check, and then creating another burden on their office again?
You see, once that valuation report has been brought to the chief government valuer, it's owned by the government. Because all these processes, we work along with them, and we build processes in the law and to guide them on how to do it. And there are limitations on what you can or cannot do. So to that extent, there are enough safeguards for you not to overvalue. And then the other thing we are doing with the chief government valuer, we are working on a valuation index. The valuation index will basically tell you the average prices of properties in certain markets. So even if a private valuer were to value, we already know the average value of property. So it's unlikely that they will go and value something way off the market value, because the law allows a variation of up to 15%, because it's not an exact science. So it allows a variation of up to 15%. If you're within that range, we take it on board. And also we have combined data sets, as I told you. We have integrated registration data, survey data, valuation data. All these data sets are in the system. And that allows the chief government valuer to make a decision quicker. So we don't think it will be a bottleneck. We think, in fact, in the same way a government valuer will go and value a property, that is the same process that will be followed by a private valuer. The only thing is they are private. And this one is a government valuer. If you are a customer, the chief government valuer is a free service. The private valuer is a costed service. They have their own costings of how to value these things. So that's the only difference. In terms of output, I think it will be fairly the same, because the protocols don't allow you to go way off the mark. Yeah, and there's an opportunity for review or appeal if you don't like the value, and the system will just guide us on what to do next.
Right, that point by CS Farida Karone takes us to the close of our conversation on Business Redefined.